That was impressive. Everybody just stopped talking. All right, I'm going to call to order the governing board meeting of the St. Johns River Water Management District. Today is November 12th, 2025, and it is 10 a.m. I'm going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we're going to do a roll call. If y'all could join me. Let's all stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We normally meet on a Tuesday. We moved our meeting to Wednesday this week in honor of Veterans Day, and with that, we honor our veterans and thank you for your service to our country. We wouldn't be here without you, and I know we all feel that way. And hopefully everybody had a wonderful and appropriate time yesterday honoring the members of the Armed Forces of the United States. Let's do our roll call. Ms. Giabi White.
Present.
Mr. Oliver.
Present.
Mr. Peterson.
Present.
Mr. Outwood.
Present.
General Burnett.
Here, sir.
I gave you a promotion. Yeah. I had two Dougs here, and I was thinking military, and I always think of you when I think of military, General.
Thank you, sir.
And I know you're here today. And then Doug Bornick. Mr. House. Ms. Price. And my name is Rob Bradley. I'm clearly present. So we have a quorum, and we're ready to proceed with the order of business. As always, we start with Ms. Hudson, who's going to do our employee awards.
Good morning. I'm Robin Hudson, Human Resources Director.
Anything you do when they are 13.
This month, we'd like to present Corey Fenton with the Employee of the Month Award. Congratulations to Corey Fenton, the November Employee of the Month. Corey is recognized for his outstanding performance, reliability, and measurable impact in sharing the district's strategic vision and core mission with more than 6 million citizens. Corey has significantly elevated the district's digital presence. In the last 6 months, he achieved 4.3 million views across Facebook and Instagram, more than triple the district's combined total over the previous 5 years. His creative and strategic approach has positioned the district's social media channels among the top performers of Florida's water management districts. Please join us in congratulating Corey on this well-earned honor. A 5-year service award for Sajja Patel, Senior Systems Administrator in the Office of Information Technology. And a 25-year service award to Christina Ladd, Transportation Program Supervisor in the Bureau of Transportation and Facilities. Christina is responsible for overseeing the transportation team, including both mechanical and administrative staff. She oversees the vehicle pool and assigned fleet assets. She plays a critical role in supporting the Bureau with the annual fleet condition analysis and the procurement of new vehicles and equipment. Christina successfully implemented a comprehensive work order and database system for both the transportation and facilities programs. She is widely regarded as a subject matter expert in the administration of the district's transportation management software. Christina's extensive expertise and dedication ensure the transportation program operates efficiently, enabling district staff to perform their duties without disruption. Christina is known for her proactive approach and her unwavering commitment to operational excellence. Christina was honored as an Employee of the Month. Thank you, Christina, for 25 years of dedicated service to the district.
Well, we certainly thank you all for your service. Thank you very much. All right, item 2 is the consent agenda. Do any board members wish to pull any items for discussion? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Okay, item 3 is the hydrologic conditions report. Mr. Miller, you're recognized.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Bradley and members of the Governing Board. I'm Tim Miller, Bureau Chief of the Bureau of Water Resource Information, presenting the November Hydrologic Conditions Report representing data from the month of October. I want to mention that at the end of the report, I'll also present hydrologic information specific to the October 26th extreme rain event, and you'll receive an update on storm impacts and district response from our Emergency Coordination Officer, Chris Kinslow. Beginning first with rainfall, precipitation in October was highly varied across the district, and while we typically expect higher rainfall in coastal regions at this time of the year, this month exhibited more variation than normal. As you can see on the map, high rainfall amounts were received along the eastern seaboard in St. Johns County, and particularly in the central and southern parts of the district. Peak rainfall amounts exceeded 22 inches in a small portion of Brevard County, while in contrast, areas in Baker County to the northwest received less than half of an inch. The average total across the district was just over 1.8 inches above the district-wide monthly average. 11 of 18 counties were above normal in October, but 4 northern counties were more than an inch below their monthly averages, and this included Nassau, Duval, Baker, and Bradford counties. Countywide average rainfall totals ranged from a high of 12.39 inches for Brevard County to a low of 0.78 inches for Baker County, which is 2.4 inches below average. Here are those monthly rain data displayed as averages across counties, along with the associated monthly rain data table. The rain data table to the right, shown here, is available each month on our website, which includes monthly averages and totals, as well as 12-month data for each county.
I like that chart. It's a good chart.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, in reviewing rainfall, over the past 12 months, the district-wide annual rainfall total is 4.41 inches below the annual average of 51.01 inches. Rainfall distribution on an annual scale has been higher in Volusia, northern Brevard, and portions of southern counties through the year, while we see that areas to the west and northwest have received less. 3 counties are above normal. And of the 15 counties below their 12-month rainfall averages, 5 counties were below their annual averages by more than 10 inches. This included Bradford, Alachua, Marion, Putnam, and Baker counties. Baker is more than 13 inches below its annual average. Countywide totals ranged from the lowest value of 37.68 inches for Bradford County to the highest value of 55.4 inches for Volusia County, which is just over 4 inches above its annual average. As we're discussing annual rainfall in areas which are recording deficits from the annual average, here is the latest drought monitor map. Updated each week, this is the most recently published U.S. Drought Monitor assessment with data from November 4th. While the majority of the district is not experiencing drought conditions, our northwest counties show the effects of below average rainfall ranging from moderate drought to abnormally dry conditions, and bear watching as we go into our dry season. Per NOAA Climate Prediction Center, mild La Nina conditions are present and expected to continue through at least December, which increases our chances for a cooler, drier fall and winter. And the 3-month precipitation forecast from National Weather Service calls for below normal rainfall, but with some degree of uncertainty, so we'll continue to monitor these conditions. Outside our district, you can see varying degrees of drought across the state, ranging from extreme drought in the northern panhandle to moderate drought and abnormally dry conditions along the western portion of the peninsula. Moving on to surface flows, here are the monthly mean surface flows as compared to historical statistics through October. Surface flows at the majority of sites remained in the normal range for this time of year, while flows in the St. Mary's River to the north decreased into the very low range, and the Ocklawaha River to the west remained in the low range. Other changes observed include the Wekiva River near Sanford Station, which decreased from the high to normal range, and increases into the high range at the Econ River and 2 locations along the southern St. Johns River. In general, flows have remained on trend with annual rainfall amounts. Seasonally high tide events known as king tides, which occurred around the full moon earlier in the month, have contributed to high water levels and flooding in some locations along portions of the St. Johns River as far south as Astor. In the next series of slides, we'll review the status of water levels at selected long-term lake sites. Lake levels have had a mixture of increases and decreases through the month. And looking first at Lake Brooklyn, the water level decreased by 7/10 of a foot from the previous month, but remains above its average level for October. Lake Weir recorded a slight decrease in October, continuing to be below the average water level. Water level at Lake Winnimisset had an increase of 4/10 of a foot and remains above the average level for this time of the year. You'll note this hydrograph shows impact of the October 26th rain event with the rise in level at the end of the month. Lake Apopka's level had an increase of 2/10 of a foot from the previous month and was above its average level. Again, we clearly see the increase in water level from the rain event in late month, but regulation of water levels and available storage capacity were such that the lake remained just below regulation schedule following the rain. Water level in Blue Cypress Lake had an increase of 7/10 of a foot in October. Rains in the early month raised levels at this location, but at the end of the month, levels were in accordance with its regulation schedule and above the average water level. Water levels across the upper Floridan aquifer were nearly an even split of locations which recorded increases and those that decreased, largely coinciding with the distribution of rainfall in the past months. As indicated on the map by the red triangles, 2 sites in western counties recorded decreases of 10 or more percentile points. In contrast, 12 sites recorded increases of 10 or more percentile points, as shown by the purple triangles. These increases were primarily at locations along the eastern portion of the central part of the district. Areas in the high range, indicated in blue, comprise much of the southern and central coastal areas, while areas of low and very low conditions persisted in Duval and expanded in portions of neighboring counties. While the majority of the district remains in a positive position regarding groundwater levels, areas of low levels will continue to be monitored as we move into our drier months. Next, we'll look at the district-wide index value for aquifer conditions. And again, percentile ranges listed in the legend on the right help define the range shown on the graph. The upper Floridan aquifer well index value at the end of October was 42, remaining in the normal range relative to historical water levels observed in October. While the value is in the normal range, recent dry conditions for parts of the district, along with a forecast of lower than normal rainfall in coming months, reinforce the importance of water conservation for Floridians. Following the watering restriction schedule, which just switched to 1 day per week from now through March, is one way for the public to help in these conservation efforts. Here's the well index with added historical perspective. This looks busy, but to break it down, we've included index values from the past 30 years at 10-year intervals, including 1995, 2005, and 2015, as well as values from the years 2001 and 2007. The index values from 95, 05, and 2015 were in the normal to high range, and notably, these were wet years with ample rainfall. In contrast, low index values from dry years such as 2007 and the statewide drought in 2001 indicate that the index is primarily driven by rainfall received through the year. It also shows that the index provides a good overall representation of aquifer conditions and the associated seasonality. In the next series of slides, I review changes.
Could you go back to that?
Sure.
Because I think this is relevant, kind of central to what we do, right? So you're saying that the constant with this data is that they're basically a reflection of an annual rainfall?
Yes, and longer term rainfall. So you get into the 2-year rainfall patterns that we've had. So yeah, primarily that's the main driver of our aquifer conditions.
The things that, what about drawing down on the aquifer, by our development that's occurred in the state and these sorts of things? What can we glean how that fits into this in any way, shape, or form? In other words, are we effectively or ineffective in dealing with you can't control Mother Nature, but you can control what you can control what you can control, right? So is this a reflection that we're doing our part in some respects, or how could we? Maybe that's a Mike Register question. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So I think, like he said, the main driver on the levels within the aquifer, within the systems that we measure, are rainfall for that period of time and for probably the 24 months beforehand overwhelms a lot of the rest that we do. It's more through our consumptive use permitting program, our MFL program, and our water supply program that we see the effects of the work that we've done. And one kind of good example of what we've been able to accomplish is that for the last 10 years or so, actual groundwater use has remained relatively constant, even though population has gone up significantly over that time period. So I think that.
Well, let me let's say it wasn't constant, right? Let's say we did not effectively manage that. And we just did nothing, and whoever sticks a straw in the ground, knock yourself out. These numbers would look differently, correct?
Yes, they would.
Because the well index would be lower, correct?
Correct.
All right. I'm just sort of putting it all together, right?
And that's what we look at in our minimum flow and level program is you know that with drought and with lots of water, with rainfall, those levels are going to go up and down. And what we look at with those is the effect that pumping is going to have to make sure that those lows don't go lower to where it's going to be a problem, or that they don't stay lower to where it's going to be a problem. And so by setting those boundaries within our CUP program, and that's what you'll see in some of the presentations that we have to where we reach some of that. And it calls for projects and alternative water supply and water resource development projects. But absent any of that work that's been done, these numbers would be a lot lower.
Mr. Bornick, go ahead. Yeah, get your mics.
A comment.
Thank you, sir.
In 2005, we had Francis, Jean, and Wilma, and you can see that top line. We were awash in water in this peninsula, and we thought we were fat and happy and good to go. And just 18 to 24 months later, we had a severe drought in this peninsula, and Lake O hit its all-time low. The large cities didn't have water supply, so that was probably the most dramatic swing that in my lifetime I've ever witnessed. We had 3 hurricanes in 05, and then to go from that down in 07, 2 years later, to the lowest low ever. The swings in this state are incredible. And so what we do to protect the resource is so important. We just, as you said, Mr. Chairman, we can only do what we can do, but it's important that we do that, because if not, the swings would even be more dramatic.
Well said, sir. Yeah, you can see the 2005 and then the 2007 on the chart, can't you? To your point. Yep. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Well, I guess I did, but that's because I did. But I apologize for interrupting you, but I wanted to sort of bring it all together. But go ahead. Back to you.
That wrapped it up. That's good.
All right. Okay. Let's move on with the slides then.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
In the next series of slides, I review changes in flow at selected spring sites with long-term monitoring. As you'll see, changes in flow were mixed. The monthly mean for flow in Silver Springs decreased 11 cubic feet per second from the previous monthly mean. And at 546 cubic feet per second, flow remains in the low range for this time of year, reflective of low rain recorded in this spring shed in recent months. At Blue Spring, data were only available through October 14th, and up to that point, flows were in the normal range. Our partners at the USGS provide these data, and our staff believe this temporary gap is due to technical difficulties in site communications or something similar, and we anticipate resolution in the future. At Rock Springs, flow had a slight increase from the previous monthly mean and is in the normal range. Peaks in the hydrograph coincide with rainfall at the beginning and end of the month. A slight increase in flow was also observed in the monthly mean at Wekiwa Springs. Flow continues to be in the normal range for this time of the year. The well plugging program completed the abandonment of 24 wells in October, with an estimated potential of nearly 1.7 million gallons per day of flow conserved. And since November 2020, the program has conserved an estimated potential flow of 94.1 million gallons of water per day.
Last month, we talked, Mr. House had mentioned the idea of what that translates into in real life. And I know that, I'll let Mr. Register comment on this. I think we're going to be putting together some real-world reflections of the savings that this program has done to show, I mean, it's something crazy like it's what Orlando uses in a year or something crazy like that. I mean, it's a significant amount for relatively little investment, which is you don't see often in this world, right? But anyway, yes, go ahead.
If you're going to be doing that, every so often, I just like to see what counties we're picking up most of the work in.
What a great idea. Could we, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
We'll make sure that the next slide reflects that data.
Thanks.
And,
Yes, sir.
you know, one question I would have, and it's probably a broader discussion to have at a later date, but I'm assuming the aquifer and where these wells are abandoned, where we're seeing the low areas in the aquifer don't necessarily correlate exactly to where we're seeing most of the wells being plugged. And, you know, maybe as a board at some point, we should consider taking up greater incentives for those areas that are suffering more so that the program can be more effective in specific local areas of the district instead of all being concentrated in one area where we've already plugged a lot of the wells. But
Those two comments match on that
Yeah.
point. Excellent. Yes, let's start exploring this concept that these folks have raised to see if we can drill down a little more on what has been, I think, a wildly successful endeavor, and see if we can make it even more successful.
All right. Here is the fire dashboard provided by Land Management, updated for October, the first month of our new fiscal year. We did not have any wildfires, and prescribed fire was not applied, but that's typical for this time of year due to ecological factors. Some of those ecological factors include the higher risk of damage to trees ahead of their winter dormant stage, as well as understory native grasses, which are at important points in their annual growth cycle. In late November, early December, ecological risk factors are reduced and cooler weather provides opportunities for less intense burns. So the expectation is for increased burning activity late November and beyond as weather conditions allow. As we move on to discuss the recent extreme rainfall event, I'll ask Chris Kinslow to join me after these first slides, which help communicate the hydrologic impact of the storms. On the evening of October 26th, a warm front produced excessive rainfall in Lake and Brevard counties. More than 17 inches of rain impacted the Mount Dora and Eustis area, primarily between 4 p.m. and midnight. And 13 to 16 inches of rain impacted an area bounded by Titusville, Cocoa, and Cape Canaveral during that same period. These rain amounts are quite extraordinary for a non-tropical event, but very comparable to a tropical storm or hurricane. The most recent example being Hurricane Milton last year, and although rains from that storm were more widespread, rainfall totals were similar. The satellite imagery shows the location and movement of the storm activity over approximately a 12-hour period as these systems and excessive moisture were then pushed out by an incoming frontal system. As mentioned, rainfall accumulations were extremely high for locations in central Lake County and northern Brevard County. Shown here are NextRad radar rainfall totals, which represent the highest totals recorded by a single pixel during this event. To better define that scale, a pixel is a little more than 1.5 square miles or 4 square kilometers. Clearly, these are incredible rainfall amounts. And for context of return interval, rainfall totals in the Mount Dora and Eustis area indicate an estimated 1 in 1,000 year storm, while rain received in the Titusville area indicate between a 1 in 200 year and a 1 in 500 year rain event based on nearest NOAA rain gauge data. One of the features that draws people to the Mount Dora area are the hills and topographical relief that you can see in the shading on the map. But it's also a contained drainage basin, which makes it more susceptible for flooding during high volume rain events. And although the area in northern Brevard is a connected drainage area with outflows to the east towards the Indian River Lagoon and west to the St. Johns River, the flat topography can flood quickly as water movement can be slower. In both cases, rainfall amounts of this magnitude pose flooding concerns and would for any location. While the rain totals were remarkable, the other important component of this event was the estimated hourly rainfall rates. A high volume of rain over a long period of time will still cause flooding, but the risk for flash floods is heightened by rainfall intensity. In this event, rain intensity in both areas was extremely high and again comparable to rates observed with tropical systems. In fact, the rates and duration of the high intensity rainfall exceeded those of Hurricane Milton. To better characterize the intensity of the rainfall and the resulting impacts to infrastructure and flash flooding, here is a closer look at those data. The map to the left shows radar rainfall pixels as rainfall intensity in inches received per hour, with the scale shown below for reference. Looking first at the Mount Dora Eustis area, the graph on the upper right shows the rainfall intensity values from 2 different pixels of radar rainfall data in the Lake County area. And for reference or context, the red line denotes very heavy or torrential rain, which is up to 2 inches per hour. Weather outlets typically classify heavy rain between 0.3 and 1 inch per hour as being heavy, so at 2 inches, that's extremely heavy. And in the dark blue bars show data from the pixel that had the highest rainfall total for this event. And you can see extremely heavy rainfall persisted for several hours, resulting in the unusually high rain totals. On the upper graph, the pixel illustrated in light blue recorded the highest intensity that we recorded during this event at nearly 7 inches per hour, which is an incredible amount. The Titusville area also experienced similar extremely high rainfall rates for an extended period of time. The data shown in the lower graph in the dark blue bars is from the radar pixel at the location in that area, which received the highest rain total during this event. And you can see that the rainfall intensity was greater than 3 inches an hour for 3 consecutive hours. When an event like this occurs, we rely on web tools maintained by the National Weather Service to monitor current as well as forecasted flood status. These tools utilize monitoring data collected by the USGS, which we co-fund to help make these critical tools possible. And what you see here are examples of what the information looks like at 2 locations where we saw river levels increase during this event, resulting in flooding impacts. These hydrographs show water levels at the St. Johns River at Astor site to the north in the upper graph, and the St. Johns River above Lake Harney site at State Road 46. Before and after the storm, along with forecast information. Flooding at Harney rose at a similar rate to Astor, but crested at minor flood stage, while flooding near Astor moved into moderate flood stage for several days, before declining into minor flood stage. Forecasts indicate water levels at Harney will continue to decline, although remaining in action stage, And flooding at Astor has also declined and has just dropped into the action stage, although it did exhibit a slow decline. With that, I'll pass this over to Chris Kinslow to provide further information on the district response.
You're recognized.
Good morning, Chairman Bradley and members of the board. My name is Chris Kinslow. I'm the district's emergency coordinating officer. Today, I'll be providing a summary of the assistance that the district provided to Brevard and Lake County in response to the extreme rainfall event. On Monday, October 27th, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the Florida Division of Emergency Management requested the district's assistance for technical aspects for the response and recovery operations in Lake County. Flood relief pumping efforts began that day and included the issuance of emergency field authorizations by the district. 4 emergency field authorizations were issued in relation to this event. On Thursday, October 30th, Brevard County and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers requested the district's assistance in setting up real-time water level monitoring equipment around a large wetland in northern Brevard County, which the county and the Army Corps plan to pump flood water into from flooded neighborhoods and roads. The following day, 5 district hydrologic data collection specialists arrived around 9 a.m. and installed 4 temporary water level telemetry sites at the locations shown on the map by the stars. By 6 p.m., our site was providing data to Brevard County by emails every hour, with data collected every 15 minutes. Of note, these systems aren't like quick deploy systems. They're a kit, but you don't stick something in the ground and unfold it. They built these as they would any other telemetry site in our network. And they did this within 24 hours of the request. Lastly, on Friday, October 30th, Lake County made a request to the district to double the outflow from Lake Eustis via the Burl Dam to reduce the lake levels in hopes that this reduction will increase downstream capacity, thus improving drainage in an area of concern. All lakes within the upper Ocklawaha River Basin system were under regulation at this time, at the time of the extreme rainfall event, and the increased flows from this request were absorbed by Lake Griffin, which was at the time under regulation and remained under regulation after this request was completed. This request has been completed, and base level flows through the Burl Dam have been restored. We appreciate all of your attention, and the district is always proud to assist our neighbors and partner counties in times of need. If you have any questions for Tim or me, we'd be happy to answer them.
Does anybody have any questions? Now, the Burrell Dam is ours?
Yes, sir.
All right. And what's the, first of all, great job. This isn't critique. I'm just making sure I understand. When we release or hold in dams, obviously there's some limitations on what we can do. Who obviously we monitor it and regulate it, but is there some sort of federal involvement on that, on what we can and cannot do in that situation?
No, not on these structures. We control them, so we have a group that monitors the water levels, both upstream and downstream and further on to make sure that any releases that we do don't move a problem into a different
Right, that's right.
area. And so we can control that within the limits of what the structure is capable of happening. As he mentioned in this case, they were already below regulation schedule in the downstream lakes. And so we were able to
Had some capacity down there that we were able to.
So we just shifted a little bit from that lake to the other lake.
Great work. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that will conclude item 3, and we'll move to item 4, which is Dale Jenkins telling us about when the spigot's coming on in Black Creek.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and board members. Happy to be here to provide my monthly update on construction progress for the Black Creek project. This photo before you here is a drone shot, a very recent drone shot, and it's shooting back towards it's starting at cell number 6. So that's in the foreground. It's full of stone. The only thing it lacks is media. Right behind that is cell number 5. You can see media right now is being placed in that cell. That triangular shaped area is a stormwater retention pond, and then here's cells 4, 3, 2, and 1, and they're all completely filled with media, and they all have plants in them also. Okay, so where we're at is about 98% complete overall on the project and about 96% complete on the treatment system. Over the last 30 days, cell 5 now is about nearly 60% complete and filled with media, right up here in the upper right. We completed placing stone in cell 6, as a previous drone photo showed. Paving of the entrance road coming into the treatment facility is right here, and that's almost done. Final paving remains to be done, but the actual road is pretty much done coming into the treatment system. And we completed upgrading the erosion control and making outfall improvements right here, at the outfall that goes into Alligator Creek once the treated water starts to flow. Last week, we began evaluating the effectiveness of these improvements to the erosion control system by running available treated water through the outfall. We're happy to report that we are within the turbidity limits on the permit at the compliance point in Alligator Creek. However, we will continue to run water through the system as it becomes available and monitor downstream water quality in case we need to make further refinements to that system. In order to complete our testing of the treatment system, we need rain, obviously, and resultant higher flows in Black Creek. As Tim just showed a little while ago, in this area of Florida right now, we're in a rainfall deficit. And I think Tim also showed it's a moderate drought in this area too. So Tim and his staff were good enough to take a look at a rain gauge very close to the project site. It's in the upstream reach of the South Fork of Black Creek. And over the last 12 months, there's been a 10.5-inch deficit of rainfall in this area, which explains why we're having a problem having enough flow in Black Creek. So overall, the last 5 months, only 1 month wasn't in deficit rainfall. So we're just in a bad spot right now. Our permit limit is we can't pump until we have a flow of 25 CFS in Black Creek. We're at 16 this morning. So unfortunately, we don't see our ability to run water through the completed system anytime soon. But the good news is, because we've been testing a little bit with the water that is available, we've uncovered a few things that need to be fixed. So we've got some parts of the process that we're making improvements on right now. We've got a valve that we need to replace and a water level sensor. So at least we continue to work to refine the system to where we finally do start getting rain, we can operate. So we're very close. Cells 1 through 3 are pretty much ready to go with some of these refinements that I just mentioned. And we're just waiting for rain now. So that's all I have, and if anyone has any questions.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Dale, I'd be happy to wash my car, because when I do, it rains. I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, I have that same issue. Yeah, in fact, I'm getting it washed today.
Exactly. So the limits in the permit, those are pretty conservative, if I recall, like crazy conservative.
Yeah, they were very conservative, setting it so that there's basically no effect there in the creek.
But I mean, there's no effect even if we took the water, really, not much.
Right. I mean, it would show a decrease in flow. It would be
Yeah.
a measurable decrease in flow when we take it below at levels like
Was that a federal permit or a DEP permit?
DEP permit.
Is it possible to discuss that over time with them?
I think as we start managing the project, we can do some work to see if there are lesser amounts that we could withdraw at lower stages or that, just to see what options are available for as much adaptive management to the system as possible.
I mean, obviously there's limits to everything, but I just know how conservative we were on that, which is, I always like to start conservative, right? But we'll see. All right, great. I think that's something to consider down the road.
And to tag onto that is it kind of binary on-off at 25 feet. Or if it's 24, we can run at 90%, to your point. It just seems,
It's the permit's a hard stop at the 25 CFS.
Well, I
we
think,
can run all the pumps full out at 25, but at 24.9, it's 100% shut off.
Correct.
Okay.
see, that's the sort of thing,
That's-
Or actually, isn't there a step? So I think there is a step going above that.
Okay.
Dale might have it.
Yeah,
To where
yeah,
you run
yes.
some of the pumps right at 25, and then as it gets higher, you're able to increase to the full capacity of 10 MGD.
Yeah, one pump, I think, from 25 to 30, and then we can kick on another above that. And, you know, so it steps up all the way to 10 is the capacity of the entire system.
I'm wondering if we don't bring that whole step down. You know what I mean? Like the first step lower and then the next step a little higher and over time.
Over time, as Mike alluded to, you know, the reason you set the level at 25, you have to be protective of the riverine system, so.
Oh, we should be. I mean,
Yeah, right.
that's a major part. I'm just saying that if there's,
I think we could maybe even talk to them about collecting additional data.
that's,
During
Right.
I'd just like to see what the
Right.
real effect is
Versus
because
a modeled effect that we.
this
had
model
if they got
effect,
the
I
permit.
mean, one thing I know about this is that even if we're running on full throttle, it's not like draining the river or anything. I mean, it's still a spoon in a bathtub, you know? So, anyway. Great.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move to item 5. Clay is going to talk to us about implementation strategies to recover the lower Santa Fe and Itchitucknee rivers and Priority Springs minimum flows and levels. You're recognized.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. I'm Clay Corsi, the Director of the Division of Water Supply Planning and Assessment here at the district. It's important to understand the why behind the strategy and the projects that are in that strategy before we dive into that. So we've got a little bit of background that we're going to go over, and here's the outline of what that background is going to be for the presentation today. MFLs are really the cornerstone of our regional water supply planning process. They actually set the limits beyond which you cannot use any more water out of those systems. Really important levels that get set, not just for our water supply planning, but as Mike mentioned earlier, for our consumptive use permitting process. So the board is aware that we have 3 water supply planning regions, this being the North Florida Regional Water Supply Partnership. The reason that this water supply planning region was developed is that because groundwater withdrawals do not necessarily follow the surface water basin boundaries that the districts were delineated upon. So withdrawals in the St. Johns River Water Management District can potentially affect the water resources in the Suwannee River Water Management District, and vice versa, where withdrawals in the Suwannee River Water Management District can potentially have impacts on our water resources as well. So the partnership was formed. Discussions on this actually started pushing 20 years ago now. It was in 2008 that those discussions began and was formalized in 2011 by an interagency agreement between the 2 water management districts and the Department of Environmental Protection. The first joint plan was done in 2017, and then the first update to this plan was done in 2023. And like I said earlier, these regional water supply plans are extremely important. They're what helps us look out over that 20-year planning horizon and ensure that we have enough water for growth while not having deleterious effects on our natural systems. So just a little bit of a refresher is the Florida Department of Environmental Protection adopted MFLs in 2015 for the lower Santa Fe and Itchitucknee River and associated outstanding Florida springs. Those MFLs are effective in both the Suwannee River and St. Johns River Water Management Districts. There's 3 points and an updated MFL that's been done. And you can see here on the screen that 2 of those points are deemed to be in recovery, and one of those points is actually meeting its MFL. the point of this presentation is really to focus on the non-regulatory portion of the implementation strategy. As we move forward, there's actually two portions of this. The non-regulatory being that project side of things and some strategies that are developed there. And then DEP is going to be adopting a regulatory portion, a rule portion that'll be effective in both districts. And I'll highlight a little bit about what the department's going to be doing there. So if we're looking at where things stand with our most recent data, if you add that minus 1 and minus 6.3, we're a little over 7 CFS in the hole currently. And then projected, if we don't do anything in 2045, that we'd be a little over 30 CFS in the hole. One of the important points to note on the implementation strategy is that I think there's a little bit of a false sense of how things are supposed to work by the public in particular on our implementation strategies, where they think that when we have a system that's in recovery, that we just pump the brakes and stop everything. That's not exactly how the legislature's instructed us to perform these types of withdrawal permitting, is that when we have these types of situations, the district's actually required to provide water for those future reasonable beneficial uses while we're working on recovering those systems. And to get into more statutory minutia here, we've got a lot of requirements when we have a minimum flow and level implementation strategy that we're going to be adopting for an outstanding Florida spring. And of note here is paren D, that requires the Water Management District to participate financially in that with no less than 25% of the project cost. This is a list of the 4 core projects that I'll go over in a little bit more detail further on in the presentation. I think one important thing to note here is that there's actually, in addition to these 4 core projects, the district's been working with our partners, and there's 100 additional more local scale projects that I think point to your question earlier, Mr. Chairman, on what's been happening to be able to keep that water use constant. It's these 100+ projects that have been happening in North Florida over time to make sure that we're implementing water conservation and reclaimed water projects. So here is those 4 core projects and a little bit more information on the cost and then the volume benefits of these projects.
Let's go back to that. Because this is where the rubber hits the road. Does anybody have any questions on this slide? I mean, other than the $1.2 billion price tag?
Not too bad if you say it fast.
Well, and
Trying to calculate the zeros out behind that number.
I'm just chuckling there. I remember 5 years ago, or 7 or 8, or whenever we started down the road with Black Creek, and it was 40 million, 50 million, and now it's 119. And frankly, it's a bargain compared to where things are headed from a cost standpoint and from a return on investment standpoint. It's which is a lesson, I think, for the board, that nothing's getting cheaper, and there's no time like the present if one is able to address these things. All right, go ahead.
Speaking of the Black Creek project, that's actually what we're using as a model, not just in North Florida, but in other planning areas of the district, as a way to set up regional partnerships and success for water supply development. This project provides water for the St. Johns River MFLs well beyond our 20-year planning horizon for our North Florida planning area. And it actually has a benefit for the MFLs in the Swanee River Water Management District as well. So it's projects like the Black Creek project that are of critical importance for us to be able to continue providing that water for the economic development in North Florida. So as part of this process in developing projects for the implementation strategy, we partnered with Florida Department of Environmental Protection, the Swanee River Water Management District, and then 4 utilities in northeastern Florida. And we had a consultant develop a list of projects for us. There was numerous projects that were looked at under this study, and it was a really good effort. We did a lot of whiteboarding activities looking at different source waters and different recharge locations. And out of this process, a number of projects were shortlisted here. And I'd like to draw your attention here to the final column where it says full goals met. You can see the Water First North Florida project is a yes, and the costs associated with this. And then a question that we're always seem to get when we're talking about projects is, why don't you just do desal? Well, I think from here, it's pretty clear economically why desal is not the preferred option here, because the cost is 2 to 3 times more expensive than using that reclaimed water for project development. So diving into a little bit more detail on the Water First North Florida project, the Water Management District, with the great team we have here, has really shown that we have success in bringing regional projects to fruition. If you look at the Upper Basin project that the district's been able to implement, look at the Black Creek Water Resource Development Project and the successes we've had in Lake Apopka, this is one that we'd like to add to our list of project successes here to help secure the water future for North Florida. And you can read on the screen what this project's about, and at the July briefing, we went over this project in a little bit of detail as well. Aquifer recharge is not a new concept. The Black Creek Water Resource Development Project is an aquifer recharge project that happens to have wonderful benefits for our beautiful lakes in the Keystone Heights area. And we have studies that have been done and projects that have been implemented, 20 plus years ago in North Florida. So the thing that to me is one of the other benefits of this Water First North Florida project are some of the recreational amenities that you get when you are able to build a project of this nature. If you look at the top right, I'm sure many of you have been down to the Sweetwater Wetland Park. And what's to me so fabulous about that, not just the fact that it's great for recreational opportunity, it's actually in the shape of an alligator head being located in Gainesville, which you might be able to pick out from the slide there. But tremendous recreational opportunities along with the water quality treatment when you put in these types of treatment wetlands.
All right, could you go back to that for a sec?
Sure.
All right, so the way we were able to accomplish Black Creek was because the ultimate benefit is recovery of those lakes that were dying, right? And that's what people could put their arms around and put their hands on. And that a very real and critical benefit of the Black Creek project is it handled our water issues, which is good for the state, great for our aquifer, all the above. The issue with this is going to be is not only is it 10 times the price, but there isn't a lake that it's filling up. So that's a harder thing to wrap your arms around because it's almost theoretical. Now, it doesn't become theoretical and people see actual benefits when you have things like this. When put into it is we're going to now have treatment wetland public access, people to enjoy places they can't enjoy right now because this is happening. And to me, if this isn't a part of it and is not a part of the both communication and a part of the actual plan, then this will be very difficult to achieve. Because no one's, unless somebody's got $1 billion sitting on, buried in a, in a plastic bag somewhere. So anyway, I wrote.
Mr. Chair, to that point too, one of the things that I think is important to recognize is that along the upstream portion of some of the Santa Fe River in particular, there have been some springs with some substantially reduced flows in those areas as a result of what Mike had mentioned previously, where you have those periods of low rainfall combined with increased groundwater withdrawals, where you might have springs that either quit flowing or have substantially reduced flows. So this will, with the implementation of this project, we'll be able to restore the flows to those springs.
Well, that's incredible. And that is similar in benefit to the benefits we're achieving and will achieve with the lakes. So thank you for pointing that out. And that needs to be, we talk about communication issues, right? And making sure that the public understands what's happening, because there's a lot of good stories to tell, and it's not, it's all very factual and very straightforward. But that's a part of this story.
Absolutely.
I'd just like to point out too, I think part of the success that we as Floridians have had with the Black Creek project is the steadfast community support that we get. Even today, we've got the front row here with a bunch of red shirts from the area who have supported this from the beginning all the way to fruition. And I think that's very important, is the community involvement and getting the community actively engaged in wanting and desiring these projects.
100%. And you see that not just with Black Creek and what we're talking about here, but in the Everglades. None of that happens, the improvements that are being made by there in those projects, without that public involvement element. And
Exactly true, yeah.
and you were been on the front lines of that, so you know that.
Yeah.
And you just know how that wouldn't have happened without that.
That's true. It's true.
Water conservation is the most effective way for us to actually make sure that when we're investing in these large regional water resource development projects, that we make that water last as long as possible. And we're going to be working with our stakeholders on implementing water savings for homes on new construction that could save almost 100,000 gallons per year on each new home that's constructed. So now down to some of the regulatory components. As I mentioned previously, we're going to have some enhanced water conservation requirements that'll be part of the department's rule. The offsets, to me, is actually a very critical piece as well, just to give some certainty to our existing water users. And what that portion of the DEP rule will entail is that if you have a permit from the district or you're an existing legal user, what you're doing today, you can continue to do. But if you happen to need additional water above your 2025 demands, then there's a potential that you'll have a choice to either participate in one of the district projects or do your own project. The other important point of the DEP rule is that, and this is specific mostly to some new requirements in the Swanee River Water Management District for some monitoring of water use. And then there's also some components of that for new residential irrigation wells. Well, they'll have to get a no-fee permit to put in those residential irrigation wells from the district. So as part of the action item that'll come up on the next slide, I just wanted to go over what we're actually asking to do and the reasons behind it. You can see A here as the 2025 implementation strategy. And the reason that we're looking for A and then B and C is that A is linked to those DEP updated rules that I've been talking about. And those are going to have to be ratified by the legislature. So that will not happen until sometime in 2026 in the earliest. So in the interim, we want to create a path forward for us for continuing to move forward on these projects. So as part of that, what we're doing is there's an existing implementation strategy, which is B, and we're going to be adding the listed projects to the implementation strategy. And then C is more an administrative thing that we have to do whenever we update implementation strategy. We have to then add those projects to the regional water supply plan. So that is what C is listed up here as. And then, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to answer any questions, and what I just explained, hopefully, is up here on the screen.
Well, thank you. I'll begin with any questions. Mr. Atwood, you're recognized.
Just listening to what everyone's talked about with Water First, maybe you should rename this Springs First. I know that you probably already used the name, but sometimes the delivery on how you name something matters. So I know it's early on, I think, or probably not as early for you guys, but might be wise to change the name. So just a thought.
Well, they already printed the cool logo there. No, I think that's, well, it speaks to what Clay was talking about earlier, in that not only did we have the alligator head and all that cool stuff that shows the public that this has some tangible things they can put their arms around, but the springs themselves will be recovered, and there will be a spring where there isn't one right now if this comes to fruition. And look, the springs are in people's imaginations, even if they aren't standing right in front of them. And this, at the end of the day, is about the springs. At the end of the day, right? That's the thing. That's what I would think is the real eighth wonder of the world, or ninth wonder. Make it 9, and Everglades can be 8. But nothing like it, and that's what we're after. To Ryan's point, it's in people's imaginations when they think about Florida, and so great idea. Yes.
Yeah, I've had a number of conversations with staff about this whole effort, and it's impressive. And I really would like to congratulate everyone on the level of work that's been directed towards this, not just for this district, but west of here and with DEP. I'm a big advocate for low-tech approaches to doing things, and so I was pleased to see that we've come up with a strategy to do that and put the desal idea sort of on the shelf. That's a wonderful technology, but it is very expensive at an industrial scale, and you end up with a waste stream that you got to do something with. So it's always there, maybe at a smaller scale if we ever had to come up with something to fill a gap. That's something to be considered, maybe. And then the other aspect of this is just taking a managerial approach to all of these moving pieces over a long lead time that allows all the partners to keep up with what's going on. And I understand there is a kind of a steering committee that's been formed that meets regularly to do that very thing at a high level. And hopefully they can keep this thing sort of shepherded along, troubleshoot any problems, come back to us if we need to give some assistance or direction. But otherwise, I think that this is it's very ambitious, but it's doable, and we should move forward with it. And so with that, I would make a motion to approve the action items here.
Well, let's, thank you. And I want to handle these one by one, if we could. But before we go there, is any other discussion? I want to, first of all, echo, yeah, good point. Let me make a comment, and then I'm going to go to public comment. Thank you. I want to echo Ms. Price's comments about, one, congratulations to all those who participated to get to this point, right? And furthermore, echo her sentiment that moving in this direction versus desal or some of these other things, I think is the right right direction for now. Obviously, this is a evolving situation. This is a work in progress, but I think this is the correct, we're at a fork in the road, and this is the correct road to take. I mean, I think this is the correct path to go down. And like Ms. Price, I've been very interested and involved in monitoring all these things and keeping track of it. And so if you see us all, and all my colleagues have. So while we don't talk to each other because of the sunshine law, we're all active participants in making sure that we understand what's happening, because this is such an important part of the job that this board does and this district does. So I want to thank all of you for all the hard work that you've done up to this point, and know that we're just getting started down this next phase. But I know that arriving at this idea that springs first or water first, or whatever we call it, being the where we're going to cast our lot for now, I would agree where I think we're headed, where I agree with Ms. Price, and I think I'm going to agree with everybody that this is the right course. Anybody else with anything? I checked before, but I wanted to say that. All right, we're going to go to public comment.
Thank you, Chair. We have several commenters today. The first is Stephanie Weeks, representing agricultural producers in North Florida.
Hi.
Hi, good morning.
morning.
My name is Stephanie Weeks, Weeks Engineering Services. As Mary Ellen mentioned, I'm an agricultural engineer, work with a large number of agricultural producers in North Florida in both the St. Johns District and the Swanee River Water Management District. And I'm here to speak in support of the staff recommendation for item number 5. It is clear to everybody, I think, that this is a very challenging problem that we face due to the large area that's in this plan and the unique hydrology. And I think your staff and Swanee staff has done a really good job at finding a unique solution to that problem. So I'm hopeful today that you will approve this agenda item. Thank you for your time.
Next speaker, Raleigh Rollerson with the Florida Farm Bureau.
Good morning, Chairman Bradley and members of the board. My name is Raleigh Rollerson, here speaking on behalf of the Florida Farm Bureau Federation. We are the state's largest general ag organization with more than 130,000 member families across the state who grow the food and fiber that support the nutritional and forestry products for 23 million residents here in the state and other consumers throughout the nation. I'm here today to support the staff recommendation on agenda item number 5, specifically the Water First North Florida project, aka Springs First. As our population continues to grow, the demand for a clean and abundant water supply will increase as well. Farm Bureau member policies support research into alternative water sources, as well as legislation and state policies that encourage or require urban and public water utilities to utilize and enhance water supplies through alternative sources. Our members' policies also encourage appropriation of state matching funds to support alternative water supply projects, and many times our ag landowners are willing to be a solution for that effort through payments for environmental services. Through that process, private landowners retain excess surface water on their lands, or as you've heard Board Member Bernique referring to numerous times as water farming, to be naturally filtered and re-entered back into the aquifer as a benefit to all residents in the region. This project, although very costly, will help protect springs, lakes, rivers, and the Floridan aquifer for generations to come by using excess surface water to recharge the Floridan aquifer and not losing it to tide. It will also allow businesses, including ag businesses, to remain viable and provide jobs, a local food supply, and a more sustainable environment for Florida's thriving economy. Thank you for allowing me to comment today. We are grateful for the continued partnership and relationship this district and its staff have maintained over the years with Florida Farm Bureau and the ag industry. We look forward to opportunities to provide solutions that help the district to meet the mission to protect our natural resources and support Florida's growth by ensuring the sustainable use of Florida's water for the benefit of the people of the district and the state. Thank you.
The next speaker is Michaela Rogers from the Florida Fruit and Vegetable Association.
Good morning, Chair Bradley and governing board members. My name is Michaela Rogers, and I'm here on behalf of the Florida Fruit and Vegetable Association. As the name suggests, we represent the vast majority of fruit and vegetable production, as well as specialty crop production throughout the state. Many of our members of which live and farm up in the North Florida Regional Partnership area. And I'm here today to express the support for the board's approval of the North Florida Regional Water Supply Plan, the Lower Santa Fe and Itchentucky River Implementation Strategy, and the Recovery and Prevention Strategies, which also will help fund the Water First project. This investment balances the needs of a growing population with the protection of our natural resources. Florida's agricultural producers take seriously their responsibility to conserve water while continuing to plant, grow, and harvest the crops that continue to contribute to the nation's national food security. They are actively engaged in water conservation through the implementation of best management practices, the adoption of precision technologies that align water availability with crop needs, and in cases where geologic conditions and food safety standards allow, some are able to implement reuse and alternative water supplies to provide their irrigation needs. However, simply relying on reductions in existing water use is not a sustainable long-term solution. As our population increases and varying sectors work to support that growth, increasing demands are placed on these natural systems, and we need a science-based, system-wide approach to stabilize and sustain our water resources and their ecological benefits, while proactively addressing future withdrawals. The Water First project, as addressed in the plan, exemplifies this kind of forward-thinking strategy. Water First is anticipated to return 40 million gallons of highly treated reuse water to the aquifer daily, directly addressing and exceeding projected resource deficits. We applaud the leadership and collaboration behind this plan and respectfully urge your support. Thank you.
The next speaker is Daryl Damrow from representing Clay County Utility Authority.
Good morning. My name is Daryl Damrow. I serve as Chief Engineer of the Clay County Utility Authority, and I'm here today speaking on behalf of our Board of Supervisors and the entire CCUA staff. I'll begin by acknowledging all the work in developing the 2025 implementation strategy and the addendum to the 2014 recovery strategy for the LSFIR MFL, as well as the addendum to the 2023 North Florida Regional Water Supply Plan. We greatly appreciate the effort undertaken to develop and update these documents to include what we believe to be the key to the MFL recovery strategy, Water First North Florida. CCUA maintains the practice of looking for long-term value for our customers. We began investing in reclaimed water infrastructure in the 1990s. 5 of our 7 water reclamation facilities produce Class AA biosolids, and CCUA recently constructed Project Quench, a potable reclaimed water demonstration facility for testing, training, and education. We have a forward-looking focus on solutions that provide long-term value. Over the past 2+ years, CCUA has been working collaboratively with some of the best water industry professionals in Northeast Florida to identify regional projects that provide environmental benefit necessary to recover the MFL. That effort identified over 800 project alternatives of varying efficiencies and effectiveness. Comprehensive analysis has shown the Water First North project to be the most efficient and cost-effective way to address the MFLs. We see this project as central to addressing environmental resource restraints and sustainably supporting the region's growing population and industries. Today, we offer CCUA's support of the 2025 implementation strategy and addenda under consideration here today, centered on the Water First North Florida project. Thank you.
The next speaker is Terry Pinson, representing St. Johns County Utility Department.
Good morning, Chair Bradley and members of the board. My name is Terry Penson. I am a senior engineer with the St. Johns County Utility Department and a local utility partner on the Water First, or Springs First, North Florida project. I'm here today on behalf of St. Johns County to express our strong support for the Water First North Florida initiative. This initiative aligns directly with the St. Johns County Strategic Plan for Infrastructure to protect and ensure the long-term sustainability of the county's water supply and enhance public education about these actions. While St. Johns County represents a relatively small portion of the overall project, our participation brings significant value. It enables us to secure a sustainable water future for our community, provides a framework to plan proactively, and to take meaningful action. Importantly, this project offers all water users an opportunity to contribute to the regional solution. We appreciate the continued leadership of the St. Johns and Suwannee River Water Management Districts, FDEP, and our fellow utility partners in advancing this project from concept to the next phase of the site investigation, selection, and conceptual design, while also integrating it into the strategy for the Lower Santa Fe and Ichetucknee Rivers and Priority Springs MFLs. We're sincerely grateful for the board's ongoing support. After working closely with this group of stakeholders, I'm confident that the right solution with the right resources will be implemented efficiently. We look forward to collaborating on the next steps.
Our last speaker is Rob Zamatero, representing JEA.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Rob Zamataro. I'm here representing JEA. And I had a lot of talking points, but most of the speakers prior to me had kind of already touched on them, so I'll keep it short. I did want to take a moment to recognize the staff here at the district and Suwannee for their outstanding job, leadership, collaboration. Coming up with solutions that are regional based is something we're not used to in North Florida. Black Creek was an exemplary example of that, and we look to follow that model as we continue on. Balancing the needs of our communities and their water supply needs with the environmental impacts is almost a near impossible task. So the challenge before us is not an easy one. As we move into the future, it's these regional type projects that are going to be necessary to make things happen and continue growth, economic development while protecting the environment. So with that, JEA is in full support of the staff's recommendation on item 5. JEA is committed to these regional projects. We committed with Black Creek, and we want to further that commitment with the Water First or Water Springs project. So,
Springs First.
Springs First project.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. I have to get the messaging right. It's a good thing I'm not in communications. So with that, thank you very much for your support and the role you all play in moving this initiative forward. So thank you.
All right, any more public comment? Okay, well, a lot of people talk about partnerships and collaboration, and that's a nice buzzword in the world. What you're seeing today is it actually in action, and that's, I think, why we're here today. I like to refer to this as the Black Creek on steroids project, and but it's not as good as Spring First. So with that, Ms. Price moves approval of the 2025 implementation strategy for the LSFIR minimum flows and levels. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously, and let the record reflect that we have 100% attendance. Mr. House joined a while ago, so that would be 100% yes of the board's current setup in attendance voting yes. You see item B. Ms. Price, do you move approval of item B as well?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve an addendum to the 2014 recovery strategy for the lower Santa Fe and Itchitecony Rivers and Priority Springs minimum flows and levels to include the water supply development, water resource development, and water conservation projects identified in the 2025 implementation strategy. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved unanimously. Ms. Price, do you offer a motion to approve C?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve an addendum to the 2023 North Florida Regional Water Supply Plan to include the water supply development, water resource development, and water conservation projects identified in the 2025 implementation strategy. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Great work, everybody. All right, let's move to item 6, which is rankings of consultants for the aforementioned Water First / Springs First North Florida Treatment, Wetland, and Recharge Facility Site Investigation. You're recognized, Clay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This slide should look eerily familiar because it was in the previous presentation as well. This is important to note that this request for qualifications is being completely funded by grant money that the Florida Department of Environmental Protection is supplying to the district to facilitate this effort. This is really the next step before we get to design work, more of the pre-design work in this project. What's needed is an engineering study and hydrogeologic investigation to evaluate the treatment wetland sites, the potential recharge sites, and then also a more detailed analysis of the pipe routing from the water reclamation facilities to the treatment wetland, and then from the treatment wetland to the recharge facilities. This went out for consumption on June 12th. We had 7 people that came to the pre-bid meeting, and then we had 2 respondents that actually came to and submitted for this request for qualifications. And you're probably wondering, why did we only get 2 respondents? The reason being is that this project, part of the pre-design work here, contains a number of different disciplines, as you can see here on the screen. So of those interested parties, we ended up getting a lot of teams that ended up occurring. So we had 2 teams with a bunch of sub-consultants that have put in for the request for qualifications here. And here is the listing of the recommendation for the staff on the scoring here, with Jacobs Engineering as 1 and CDM Smith as 2nd. And just as a note here for Jacobs, the sub-consultants are Wetland Solutions, Phillips Heavy Civil, Ecosystem Investment Partners, and Family Lambs Remembered LLC. And then the sub-consultants for CDM Smith are Black & Veatch, ASRUS, Environmental Science Associates, and Terra, the Balmoral Group, and University of Florida Howard T. Odom Springs Institute. And then here is the requested action on agenda item 6.
All right, does anybody have any questions on the requested action? Any questions? Is there a motion to approve the requested action? All right, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion, Mr. Atwood, second, Mr. Peterson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, we're going to move to item, thank you, Clay. Great work. Truly, excellent. Item 7, Ms. Register is going to discuss the 2025 Central Florida Water Initiative Regional Water Supply Plan. Dealing with some big stuff today, everybody.
Thank you.
But a lot of work has come into this day. So this is just, you're seeing the sort of an award ceremony after all the good work that's happened. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman and members of the Governing Board. I'm Callie Register with the Bureau of Water Supply Planning. Today, I'd like to present the final 2025 CFWI Regional Water Supply Plan. Today's presentation focuses on activities that have occurred since the March Governing Board, where I presented the public draft of the plan. This agenda item today is an action item, and at the conclusion of the presentation, I'll be recommending that the board approve the final 2025 Central Florida Water Initiative Regional Water Supply Plan. As a refresher, the Central Florida Water Initiative, or CFWI, is a collaborative water supply planning effort covering an area including portions of 3 water management districts and 5 counties, as shown here. The CFWI was developed to provide a uniform approach for water management in a region where the boundaries of the districts come together and where water withdrawals in one district may impact water resources throughout the area. The first CFWI Regional Water Supply Plan was approved by the 3 district governing boards in 2015, and the first 5-year update was approved in 2020. Today, we'll be discussing the second update to the plan. Before I go into some detail on what the plan includes, I'd like to recognize and thank district staff members from the 3 water management districts, as well as staff from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, and representatives from each stakeholder group who contributed so much time and effort to developing this plan. I would also like to thank Mr. Peterson for his participation as our district representative on the steering committee for the CFWI. This Regional Water Supply Plan is the 5-year update, like I mentioned, and it provides a framework for our water supply management decisions. The plan uses a 20-year planning period from 2025 through 2045. In addition to the executive summary, there are 9 chapters that provide summaries on our projections, analyses, project options, water sources, and conclusions. Since the 2020 plan approval, a lot of progress has occurred. Highlighting the regulatory protections implemented, the CFWI rule was adopted in 2021, and numerous MFLs and water reservation rules have been adopted or reevaluated for improved resource protection. The CFWI rule, Rules 6241-300 through 6241-305 of the Florida Administrative Code, are currently being implemented by the districts as outlined in the CFWI Supplemental Applicants Handbook. These rules apply to consumptive use and water use permit applicants in the CFWI planning area, and they address the public interest by providing a uniform regulatory framework to allow for the allocation of available groundwater in the area. The districts and DEP have also continued cooperative funding for alternative water supply development and water conservation. Since 2020, the districts provided approximately $398 million for 36 alternative water supply projects that are completed or under construction. This funding has been complemented by over $103 million from DEP. Combined, these projects will make available over 88 million gallons per day of alternative water supply. In addition, there has been approximately $2.9 million in funding for 30 water conservation projects, saving around 1.1 million gallons per day. This slide shows the historic and projected water demand in the planning area. Our water demands trend with historic water use considering the anticipated population growth. Using data from the University of Florida, the planning area's population is expected to increase 40% to 4.7 million people by 2045, as indicated by the black line. Public supply remains the largest water use category, followed by agriculture. Overall, demands are projected to increase by 41% to 903 million gallons per day. Efficient use of reclaimed water and implementation of conservation has contributed to offsetting the groundwater demands of the area. Environmental criteria used to evaluate the effect of existing and proposed groundwater withdrawals included 38 minimum flows and minimum water levels, or MFLs, and MFL-related environmental criteria. These included 26 adopted MFLs, 10 draft MFLs that are in process of being adopted, as well as 2 regulatory targets in the Southwest Florida Water Management District's Southern Water Use Caution Area. Wetlands were also analyzed as part of the assessment. The technical analysis focused on groundwater-dominated wetlands that could be affected by groundwater pumping. Of the over 1 million acres of wetlands within the CFWI, approximately 442,000 acres of groundwater-dominated wetlands were assessed using modeling results. These updated modeling results and analyses continue to indicate that there are areas susceptible to groundwater withdrawals which could have adverse impacts to water resources, including MFL's lakes and springs and wetlands. It's important to remember that the evaluations conducted for the Regional Water Supply Plan are projected without the planned projects, additional conservation, and full implementation of the CFWI rule. The goal of the districts is to ensure that the MFLs will be met and adverse impacts avoided by implementation of projects in the plan and through prevention and recovery strategies. The districts, in coordination with FDEP, have already implemented the rule portion for CFWI, which helps prevent adverse impacts. Based on the water resource evaluations of this 2025 plan, it was concluded that fresh groundwater availability of up to 760 million gallons per day, as identified in the 2020 plan, is still valid. This regional water supply plan identifies 856 million gallons per day of projected groundwater demand in 2045. Therefore, the resulting groundwater shortfall is approximately 96 million gallons per day. To meet these demands, the 2025 Regional Water Supply Plan identifies alternative water supply project options in the amount of 514 million gallons per day and conservation potential in the amount of approximately 45 million gallons per day. The project options for water supply and water resource development include alternative or non-traditional water sources such as brackish groundwater, surface water, stormwater, reclaimed water, aquifer storage and recovery wells and reservoirs. It should also be noted that the minimum flows and levels for the Wekiva River Basin and other MFL's water bodies are currently under reevaluation and may alter the groundwater availability in the future. The St. Johns River Water Management District is currently developing a prevention and recovery strategy for these MFLs, which will include implementation of specific projects and management strategies to meet these MFLs. And in the meantime, we continue to monitor these systems and wetlands. The 2025 CFWI Regional Water Supply Plan concludes that current and future water demands can be met through 2045 while sustaining water resources and related natural systems. In order to meet these water demands, the Regional Water Supply Plan outlines an integrated approach that includes increased water conservation, continued development of alternative water supplies, and optimization of groundwater withdrawal. During the production of the 2025 CFWI Regional Water Supply Plan, we've had extensive public outreach and engagement efforts over the last 3+ years. In addition to discussions with local governments, environmental, agricultural, and utility representatives, we also provided updates to our respective governing boards and shared the draft documents online and in public meetings. We've also sent out quarterly newsletters and posted information and updates on the CFWI website. Our public meetings included a workshop on the projections in October 2023, followed by a technical methods workshop in April 2024. Draft results and then analyses and conclusions were shared at public meetings last November and in April of this year. The draft Regional Water Supply Plan was released for public comment on March 14th, and the public comment period closed on May 16th. The CFWI Steering Committee, which is the guiding body for the CFWI process, met on September 12th to discuss and take public comment on the plan. The Steering Committee endorsed the plan during that meeting. I again want to thank Mr. Peterson for representing both the St. Johns River Water Management District and the region's best interest on the Steering Committee. In addition, as this Regional Water Supply Plan is a water management district document and a collaborative effort, all 3 water management districts will be bringing this same plan to their respective governing boards for consideration this month. I would also like to note that the offices of general counsel for all 3 districts reviewed and concurred that the plan meets all applicable Florida statutes. Thank you. At this time, I would like to request action be taken on this board agenda item as described here.
Before we move to that stage, is there any discussion? Then we'll do public comment. Is there no public comment? All right. Any questions? Not discussion. Any questions right now? All right. I want to turn it over to Mr. Pearson, who's done such a great job representing the board in this matter, and ask for what his perspective is that he wants to share with us.
Yeah, I think that I was really glad to be able to participate. It really gave me a real inside look of how our modeling and planning and how well our staff really does that, to be able to project out and look into this crystal ball on what we're going to need in 2045. This was really just this was somewhat of an easy lift this time, because a lot of planning and a lot of the modeling had been done in 2015 and 2020. And actually, I was pretty impressed on, when you look back at those prior plans and what we projected for 2025, how well that those modeling and the projections and we didn't expect COVID, and maybe an additional influx of people, but it was really well planned for, and we really hit projections from 2015 to 2020, now to 2025. So it really shows that the algorithms and the modeling and the staff work, which sometimes might seem like a little hocus pocus but when you look at all the data that they analyze to be able to come up with these things and how really closely we're able to model that, it's impressive. There are some areas of concern. The board has some work to do on MFLs and some things which are already identified in some upcoming board meetings, as your staff will be presenting MFLs here over the next year for some of those areas, particularly up in the northern areas of the planning area. So I'll just have to tell you, I was very impressed on the heavy lifting that staff does on this, and really some of the just amazing modeling work that y'all do. To get an inside look into that and be a participant, it was greatly appreciated by me. Overall, the steering committee really supported the plan, and I think they also saw all the work that goes into this. I know it's not in our board packets, but if we included it, it would be probably 3 feet thick of all the data and stuff that is really dealt with, and on the planning. So I would just like to say it was a job well done, and it's well thought out. And this is an ongoing process, and very soon this whole process starts all over again for the 2030 plan. So this is a living thing that we deal with, heading into implementing it every 5 years. So I really support this plan, and I'd like to propose the motion that we approve the plan.
Thank you. Well, thank you for your hard work. Before we consider the motion, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Pearson, who's led us on this matter, this board? All right. Well, there's a motion by Mr. Peterson. Is there a second? All right. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved unanimously. Thank you for your work. Thank you all for the hard work that our staff has done. As Mr. Pearson notes, it never ceases to amaze me, the professionalism, and it's just interesting too, It's straight up interesting. All right. We're going to move to item 8, which is election of governing board officers for fiscal year 2025-26. Ms. Preston.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. As provided in the Governing Board Policy 110,
it is that time of year again to elect officers for the next year. The process is outlined in the memo. I'm happy to run through that very quickly if there's a desire to do that.
I think we're okay. Are there nominations for officers? Yes. All right. The rules say that vote for a slate or for an individual, and that's done by roll call vote. But if there's only one slate, then we could simply declare that it is done. Now, are there any other nominations? That is one nomination that has been presented to have the current slate continue. Are there any other nominations? And anybody have any other nominations? Okay. I understand that there was a second. All right. So I'll go ahead and just handle it as a motion in a second. That's another way to do it. We have a motion to approve the current slate for the next year and a second. Any further discussion? So moved. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved unanimously. Let me just take a moment to say how honored I am. You know, you have talk and then you have action, and what this board has shown me and taught me is that this is a board of action, and the talent is I never ceases to impress me or amaze me how much talent I see from my colleagues, and the collaboration and the staff does such a wonderful job of interfacing with us and telling us what we need to understand. And at the end of the day, though, it's the responsibility of this board to get the things done. And I just can't believe how much everyone on this dais just exceeds expectations over and over again. So thank you for the privilege of being the chairman of this board, and thank you all for your outstanding public service. We get a raise this year. They're doubling our salary. 0 times 0 is still 0, though. Or 0 times 2 is still 0. I mean, but anyway, it's well worth it. I think we all agree because this is critical work for a state and a place that we all love. So anyway, congratulations to all the officers, and congratulations to all of you for another excellent year, and let's do it again in 25, 26. Okay, we're going to move to item 9, which is public comments.
We don't have any today.
All right. 10 through 18 were approved on the consent agenda, so we'll go to 19, which is Ms. Preston, pending litigation. What do we have from the law firm?
Good morning again. I have updates on 3 cases today. The first is Amber Boback versus Sun State Petrol 1 LLC and Circle K Stores Incorporated, as well as the district. If you recall, this is a third-party challenge to an environmental resource permit for a stormwater management system in Volusia County. The final hearing before the Division of Administrative Hearings has been conducted, and the administrative law judge issued a recommended order that recommends issuing the permit. The district litigation team filed exceptions on October 28th. The general nature of these exceptions recommend changes that do not affect the ultimate recommendation to issue this permit. So I anticipate a final order to be presented to the executive director for consideration later this month. The second case is Lake County versus HG Troon LLC and the district. This is a challenge to an environmental resource permit that authorizes stormwater management system in Lake County. The county and the applicant are continuing to discuss settlement negotiations in earnest. Just in case, in the event a final hearing is needed, the Division of Administrative Hearings has set those dates for December 16th through 19th at the district's Apopka Service Center if it's needed. The last case to update on this morning is Edward CC versus the district and a couple of individual staff members. This is pending in the United States District Court for the Middle District of Florida, and it relates to the plaintiff's concerns about a stormwater management system in Flagler County. The court on its own struck the amended complaint and allowed until November 21st if the plaintiff would like to amend. So this concludes my report.
Any questions for Ms. Preston? All right, going to move to item 20, governing board comments. Does anybody have any comments as we, yes, sir. You recognize Doug.
One brief one. On the idea of naming things, that ever since they created the Central and South Florida Flood Control District in 1948, which were the core guys and girls that were there were engineers. I was an engineer out of grad school, so I know how they think. And they think very logically, pragmatically. And all the canals were C1, C2, C3, C4. And I've often thought, no offense to the engineers here, because I'm one of you, but to romance the idea a bit and tell people that instead of calling this canal the C1, which runs through all the neighborhoods, maybe, just maybe, call it something appropriate for the neighborhood or the region that's other than C1. And it's just an old thing that the structure of the water management district history, I've witnessed it, I've read all the maps, I've talked to the engineers that were there at the very beginning, and they came out of World War II. Most of them, they're now passed away, that created that great plumbing system of the South Florida Water Management District and Central South Florida Flood Control District. But anyway, I like his idea of giving names to where the public and our PR staff could actually have fun with it and bring more people to understand our work. Because it's so structured and so engineered.
Yes.
And it doesn't draw people's imagination and all the great things that this staff and the districts all do. So just a comment.
It's very well taken, and I think words are important. Words are particularly important when they're words describing major initiatives. And that being said, what I would like to do is at our next meeting, I want to put on the agenda for discussion, or for consideration, the following question is motion to name the project in our work, the Springs First Water Initiative. That will give anybody who wants to have time to comment between now and then. If they have a better idea, if they think that there's something we're missing here, I don't want to just jump out and do it, but I want to do it unless we're missing something, right? And that'll give us some time to reflect on that. So let's just put that item as I just described on the next agenda, and then we'll have another discussion about it at the next meeting. All right? You're recognized.
If I could, I just wanted to express my gratitude that you are willing to continue on with our chairman. You've done a great job the last several years, and I think I probably expressed the board sentiment, that's what I'm seeing here, to thank you for continuing on in our leadership. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you. That means a lot. All right, we're going to move to item 21. Mike, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Give my executive director's report. First slide, please. Applications closed with 54 submissions this year for our Blue School Grant Program, which was up 33 from last year, which I think is a great sign of growing interest and participation. The district will award nearly $60,000 to 28 teachers from 26 schools across 10 counties. The projects focus on water education and resources, reaching more than 6,400 students across the district. So educating them young. Next slide. This is some drone footage from late October that shows submerged aquatic vegetation along the shoreline of Lake Apopka. Staff are seeing lots of pondweed, and I will not try to pronounce the scientific name of that. expanding naturally thanks to the reintroduced seed source in the area. Natural recruitment is occurring, indicating continued progress in our SAV restoration efforts. Former District Governing Board member Chuck Drake invited Jim Peterson, our Apopka Basin Manager, to co-present on Lake Apopka at the Water Environment Federation's Technical Exhibition and Conference in Chicago, which is the largest water environment conference in North America, with more than 20,000 attendees and 1,000 exhibitors. Their presentation was Lake Apopka, a case study of ecological recovery and sustainable management, which was delivered on September 30th as a part of a session titled Don't Feed the Algae. Next. Continuing, there are benefits of our restoration efforts. An article highlighting the success of the 2023 St. John's Water Management Area Drawdown was published this month in Florida Sportsman. The feature demonstrated how the management can deliver economic and recreational benefits while protecting water quality, flood control, and water supply. The coverage underscores the district's leadership in balancing environmental restoration and with community and resource needs. Maintaining water levels about a half a foot below regulation this summer has further supported the expanse of the aquatic vegetation in the area. As Tim mentioned, we had several staff members that responded to a request to set up some real-time water level monitoring around that wetland area so that as they manage their pump to relieve flooding in the area, they could make sure that they weren't going to cause any other kind of problems. So our staff went out, installed, surveyed 4 temporary monitoring sites and equipped them with telemetry so that real-time water level data could get done. The field staff who made this rapid response possible included Kelly Von Hatten, Dustin Leader, Javier Almeida, Charles McKinnon, William Kelly, and Daniel Hornsby, with coordination and support from Michael Daly, Carlos Alva, Tony Campbell, and Jalen Frederick. I want to say a sincere thank you to those staff members, as well as Chris Kinslow and Tim Miller, and the many others who supported the response efforts during the district's recent rain event. And finally, this is some drone activity. We mentioned about the Burl Lock Rehabilitation Project. It's nearing completion and hope to wrap it up this winter. The lock has been rehabilitated and the gates were reinstalled a couple of weeks ago. So they're currently going through testing of the gate operation. And if that testing goes as planned, the lock should be open to navigation later this month. And as far as calendar goes, the district will be closed in observance of the Thanksgiving holiday on November 27th and 28th. And our next governing board meeting is scheduled for December 9th here at district headquarters at 10 a.m.
All right, anything else to come before the board today? Seeing no further items to come before the board today, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right before lunch.